All right, so what I was thinking we could do in this tutorial is take a look at the Amazon Lumberyard particle system. So you can see here when I run my level, a little particle appears in the top above the arrow. That's this guy right here. So what I was thinking is, as we play our rolling game, we're rolling around, what I'll do is I'll maybe have it where you collect a bunch of objects, and as you collect them, it plays a little particle effect, and then once you exit the game, the particle will play. So we'll have almost like when you on-trigger enter this particle will spawn. But let's take a look at how you actually create the particle emitter. So on my game board itself, I was thinking we could attach a bunch of just to this object here a particle, and then later when we get into the pickup objects, we'll just attach the particle to that. All right, so what I did is, I guess I'll just go ahead and delete this particle emitter and just rebuild it from scratch so you guys can see that. Remember, we made this level trigger, and that's a, again, same sort of thing. Actually, you know, we'll do a whole session just on cleanup, so you could see how you can take the some of these little sections and just cut and paste them into their own scripts on each object. Because ideally, you don't want all of your logic in one script, but we're just doing it for the just sake of convenience. All right, so if you remember last time, what this does is this is essentially our trigger, and it destroys the game object, which is our marble. So I'm just going to right-click in here, and I'm going to group those together. And it's not, I guess it can be considered input, but I'll just do a general comment here and say this code is for our level switch and destroys our marble. Now I am aware that it does not switch the level yet, but we'll get to all that cool stuff later. Now let's see, we've got our level trigger essentially referenced here and here. So let's save this, and yeah, let's just jump into creating that particle. So on my game board here, I'm going to right click and I'm going to create a child entity, and I'm going to call this level underscore particle. And I'm going to move this just so you can see it a little bit better right here. Now ideally I would put it right inside of here so that it fires off once the game begins. But just for the sake of being able to see it easier, I'll place it above our arrow that we created. And I'm going to add in a component, and that component is going to be a particle component. And you could see here, well, it's like, well, what's the particle effect? What's the emitter? I'm going to click this little folder, and that'll let me select the particle that we had before. Now, I want to create a new particle, so just kind of showing you how to load it up. So what I'll do is essentially is go over here to tools, and I'm going to look for my particle editor, which is right here. And I have one in place here, right? This is what I was creating before, but I'm just going to go to file, and I'm going to click on add library. And in this new library here, let's maximize this, you can see that here's this new library. You can see that it's looking for particle. So I'm just going to hit add particle. Now this particle, I'm just going to name same thing as before. Maybe let's say level, I don't know, trigger particle. So we know that it's for when we trigger a new level, and it says here new library. What I can do here is go to file and then just do save all. And actually what I might be able to do actually is just, let's see, I'll just save this individual one here, and I'd like to, let's see, yeah, I think that's fine because we have this new trigger in here. So if we want to look at or reference this other one, we can just click on it and reference it down here. All right, so let's take a look at how we can adjust our particles. So depending on if your computer has a pretty powerful GPU, you can switch it from CPU to GPU. I have pretty good both, so I'm just going to leave it as CPU as is. Now, where it says emitter shape type, what I'd like to do is have sort of a burst of a circle going out. And down here, there's a lot of different shapes. Now, the difference between this and other engines is when they're talking about a point or a sphere, they're talking about a place that it emits from and around. So if I click sphere here, you can see it's sort of going in a spherical shape, like it's around a sphere. If I go to this first option here, which is point, it's emitting from the center of a point, which is a little bit more along the lines of what we're looking for. Now, there's a couple ways to preview this. I'm actually, as you can see, I was previewing it inside of the particle display, which is this. Let's see, where is... There we go. It looks like I docked it. Oh, it looks like I docked all of the components. Let's bring that all back together. Here, let's close these out. There we go. And let's just, let's see, reset to default layout. There we go. Okay. So maybe I should just minimize this. So I can preview it here. So that's a good way of seeing if you guys get stuck or you do what I did. You can just click reset to default layout. So, and that'll clean all this out. So I'm going to hit Control S to save this, and I'll minimize it for a second. Let's go ahead and load it up in here so we can see it in the scene. So remember we did this, I showed you this before, where you do the particle effects library. Well, here's the new library, and underneath this new library, we want, looks like it didn't save, because here's our other guy. Oh, we could just have to select it. So here's our new library particles. If I hit OK, you can see it's spawning them just like it is in our particle. All right, so let's go back into here. Let's take a look at the emitter and some of these properties that we're going to be using. And I think we're going to be creating a lot of different games, so hopefully I will be able to get into strong details with all of these different things. So there's a bunch of stuff. For example, the count might be a little bit too high. So if I just do 1, for example, you could see it's just spawning 1 at a time. If I do 10, we're getting a little bit more of what we're looking for. And the thing behind this is you're going to be sort of constantly updating these different numbers. A couple things is inside of this, we can see there's the particle section, which is next, right? So here we have the particle type we talked about. We're emitting it from a point. The attach type and all this I'm going to leave alone because really this is what I'm looking for. The count is, again, the number of polygons or number of particles you like. You could do 50 here, for example, and it'll spawn them at random times. We want something that's a little bit more stable like this, which is just, so I'll zero this out, but we just want this to be a little bit more stable where it's kind of just spawning at a specific rate. So let's say we want 20 particles. And that actually looks pretty good. But when I go to scale this down, it'll look a little bit different. So let's just do 20 for count. Let's see. I don't want them specifically kind of like spawning from here. I kind of want them to be spawning like more circular. So there's actually a couple things here. There's spawn delay and then there's spawn offset. I think what I'm looking for is spawn offset. See how it sort of gives me more of that spherical shape for spawning. So it's just finding the right scale. There's velocity, which is our speed, which we're going to adjust later. Also, we want this to, we want it to sort of spawn, see how it's spawning in the direction in which they're going. So you could see there's, let's see, attach form count. I think it looks pretty good. Okay, let's just go down to our particle section here. Now for particle lifetime, this is how long they live before they die. So the lower the number, you're going to see them come out a little bit quicker because it wants to push out all of those particles, which we have like, I think we did 20, right? Yeah, we want to push out all 20 particles before they die. So you can kind of look at it that way too, where you balance the particle count with the how long they live on the screen. Now the direction that they're facing is the camera. You can also have it face essentially the shape. So if we go this way, you can see it's kind of going around in that spherical shape. Velocity is pretty cool. It kind of goes in every which direction. So that's the direction in which they're being spawned, which might actually be kind of a nice look or feature. What's nice about the camera though is it's coming towards the camera that we're looking at. So it kind of gives, almost breaks that third wall or gives it that 3D effect. The last one I did was camera. So we could just kind of go with velocity for now. And then that'll give us, I think that looks pretty awesome. So we'll leave it at velocity. Blend type is alpha base. That's if you're loading a material. And later we'll do like a star instead of the arrow. But for now, we're just kind of covering this. Color is pretty cool. So say I want these guys to be gold. So I can expand color. And don't necessarily want it to be random. Let's see. These guys let you do a gradient of color. So you can select the color here. You can do a gradient across. And so that gives us more of a goldish color. And then as it begins to be born and died, that's what this second one is. So over lifetime, you'll notice that if I select this, as it goes out to die, it becomes more of this color here. I'm going to leave that as white because I kind of like the gold. Let's see. Size is obviously important. So say we want these to be a little bit smaller. If you have lock aspect ratio, it'll do X, Y, and Z all at the same. So let's say we do 0.2 here. You can see we have, it's shrink the size down a little bit. I'm going to save this for a second. And I want to look back in my scene. Just kind of look at the scale of these guys. Also, I forgot to notice, you can see that there's a speed scale here. And there's other attributes in here which kind of slows this down if you don't want them as quick. So I can do that at 0.2 or half speed. And we're going to essentially, in script canvas, just spawn them once to die, so they won't be looping like this. And let's see, same thing with count scale. All of these allow you to adjust not just these attributes, but they're like an additional set of attributes that edit the attributes that were on the particle editor. So for example, like pulse period here, if I do it 0.5, it'll pulse out. See, it does more of a pulse. Let's do 50 so you can see that a little bit better. They pulse out more. All right, so let's see if we do 0.1 here. It might be too small. So something like that looks cool. Let's take a quick look if there's anything else just in the short term of this video that we can kind of, because we're already hitting like 12 minutes. I think that looks pretty cool. What we could do later is talk a little bit about collision and gravity and stuff. And what this will allow you to do is you can set it so as they spawn, they fall down and they bounce off the surface, things like that. We'll get into more of that stuff later. For now, this works pretty good for what I'd like to do.